growing brilliance, and I am so excited to be live at a pumpkin patch with you today. We're going to talk about all different kinds of pumpkins that we see and some of the things that they're used for. But first, I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Miss Denise.
Hi.
And Miss Denise is with Fowler Ranch of Fowler Nurseries out here in California. This is Lincoln. That's I was gonna say that, but yeah, out in the country. So can you see all of this beautiful wide open space behind us? All of the beautiful trees and these pumpkins. So we're out at a ranch. We're gonna talk about some of the things that they do. So Fowler Nurseries is a commercial tree grower.
Correct. We do fruit and nut trees for the commercial farmers.
Okay, all right, and so what that means, friends, is we've learned a lot this month about how plants grow, how they start as a seed, and then they grow roots into the ground, and then grow up out of the ground. Maybe if it's a tree, then if it's leaves on it and fruit. There's a lot that goes into growing those plants for really, really large orchards and farms. And so Fowler Nursery supplies the trees and plants to the large farmers. So when they get them, they actually start out as already trees, so about 1 to 3 years old or so, and they grow 1 million trees a year to sell to the farmers that put them in their orchards. Isn't that amazing? All right, so Miss Denise, we've got a lot of different kinds of pumpkins here. So they come in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, when I think about a pumpkin, this is kind of what comes to mind for me. It's round and orange with a stem. It's got the lines that go down it. It's kind of bumpy and cold. But as you can see, there are so many different kinds of pumpkins. So let's talk a little bit about some of the pumpkins.
Sure. Well, let's start with the one you were just looking at.
Okay,
so this
absolutely.
is actually considered a yellow pumpkin.
Okay.
Which is a newer color for pumpkins. Most of them tend to be this bright orange color that we think of a jack-o'-lantern that you can carve and put on your doorstep for Halloween. But there's lots of different types of pumpkins and things that way. And so the yellow one is kind of just a more interesting addition, so you can have different colors on the doorsteps and different, you can decorate them differently and things that way to make a little more interest. So other ones would be like this big round flat one. See, it's round on top, but then it's flat like this. And they're fun to decorate with, and you can stack them. And Miss Lisa will show you how you can stack these
this
pumpkins.
is super cool, you guys. So these pumpkins, because I'm gonna move this one here, we're gonna talk about this one in a minute. I think this is my favorite so far. So you can stack these flat pumpkins into a pumpkin tower. Check it out. So I've got a big one on the bottom, and then a little bit smaller one on top of it. Look at, I can put a little yellow one on top.
And they're even fun. You can keep them for several holidays, and you can turn that into a snowman, and it will stay. You can put a little scarf on it and a hat, and then you have a snowman going into the holidays.
Look at that. So
several uses.
So many uses. So what a great sensory experience. So yeah, if you, when you're out at the pumpkin patch this weekend here at Fowler Nursery, you can pick up some pumpkins. That can be a really great sensory activity, learning spatial awareness, comparing and contrasting sizes and colors, getting your hands all over the pumpkins, and have your little one help you put together a little pumpkin tower that, like Miss Denise said, could be a snowman tower later.
Yes.
So that's a really fun one. Awesome. What else do we have?
So the one you put on top is called Blaze, and it's yellow with the orange stripes. And the orange stripe is indented on the pumpkin, and those ones grow really interesting stems. As you can see, it's twisty and turny, and so we try to keep the stems nice and long, so because people really like stems on pumpkins, and that is a great variety for getting that really interested twisty stem.
I love it. I want to show you a little bit here. Do you see what she was talking about? So the pumpkin itself is mostly yellow, and on the inside where it kind of dips in, it's a darker orange color. It almost looks like somebody painted it, but that's just the way it grew. Isn't that awesome? Very cool.
So another one is this, and this is called pumpkin pie, and it actually feels like a cantaloupe on the outside of it.
Oh, it's really rough.
Yeah, and it's really a very interesting pumpkin, and they grow about this size, and the flesh on the inside is really good for baking pies. It's a very smooth, creamy flesh, which makes the pumpkin pies really nice and smooth to eat. versus some of the other pumpkins are a little bit more textured, kind of like an apple, and not quite as smooth for what you would want for a pie. So this is a good sweet one for pies. Another good one for pies would be this one, which we call pink peanut, and it looks like it's got peanuts on it. It's bumpy on most of it, and then it can have some smoother areas as well. It's much larger, but also very sweet and good texture for pies and for baking soups.
That's good to know. I love pumpkin pie.
Yes.
And pumpkin soup.
And this one's a lot heavier than the other one, so it's much more flesh in this one than the other.
That'll make a nice big pie.
And the decorative pumpkins like this tend to last longer. So if you're going to decorate with pumpkins, more of the decoratives this way are going to last longer than the jack-o'-lanterns. In fact, I had a couple in my office this year that I finally got tired of looking at in July and got rid of them.
Goodness.
But they lasted for months and months.
That's a long time. That's good to know.
Yes.
Especially once we've cut into them and
Then
turned them
you've got
into
a couple of
jack-o'-lanterns,
days.
they don't last very
Yes.
long. But if you want decorative pumpkins like this, they'll actually last. That's
They'll
good
last
to know.
quite well.
Yeah.
As long as you take care of them and maintain them and they're not in the sun and things that way, they will
Sure.
last.
Yeah. Okay.
Another one of my favorite pumpkins is this little guy. This is called Mini Warts, and he's got a bunch of little bumpies on him, and these bumps can be all sorts of colors. They can be orange like these, they can be yellow, we can get green ones, some are kind of a whitish color, but they're very bumpy and fun to play with and look at. And they're all different. Some will have a lot more bumps and some won't have as many bumps on it. And an easier size to carry, it's not as heavy.
Yeah, this is really cool. So, it just reminds me of there's so many different things that we can learn with our pumpkins. I'm gonna switch into teacher mode really quick. So when we go to the pumpkin patch and we're picking out pumpkins for making a jack-o'-lantern or whatever we're doing in the fall, think a little bit outside the box about some of the pumpkins that you might want to take home. A pumpkin like this one is amazing for a sensory experience for children. Like Miss Denise said, it's really light. Does that mean that the flesh inside is not as dense?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So it's really light, easy to carry. All these bumps on it are a really cool sensory experience just for exploring and learning about different feelings. And then also it makes it easy to carry too for smaller hands, lots to hold on to.
And there's some pumpkins that are large in size that will have some of these bumps on them, and when you decorate them, they're great witches or Frankensteins because they look like they've got warts on their faces.
Yeah, they're
and
little
stuff.
beautiful imperfections.
Yes.
Awesome.
This is a new pumpkin for us. This pumpkin starts out as all black, and then it turns to green, which is kind of the coloring it is now. And then eventually, you can kind of see it on the bottom, they turn orange over time. And so it's really kind of an interesting pumpkin. If you set it out on your doorstep, it kind of changes color over time. So this is probably where some of the sun was getting it a little bit out here in the pumpkin patch, and that's why this spot is changing colors. But the black pumpkin initially is really, really beautiful, but it will eventually change to the orange color.
Awesome. So like you said, so the sun shining on it in that certain spot is what made it turn orange faster in
Correct.
that area, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the pumpkin was actually sitting like this, it would have been on top, but this pumpkin was probably upside down in our bin, and that's why the sun probably changed the color right there.
So cool.
Yes, so otherwise it would have been on top, but it was upside down in our bin. But this is a great little pumpkin. It's got great deep ribs on it, and they're fun to play with and hold and rub your hands across. Another one of my favorite things to do with this size of pumpkin and with the deep ribs is for kids to paint it with more of a liquid paint, and it will drip down the ribs. And it's a really interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
So it can be done with spray paint if adults do it, or like a watery paint, and it will drip down, and they can look like spider webs or all sorts of different things. We'll also use glitter and do that with it. So those are kind of a fun thing.
That's a great idea.
And then this pumpkin here is another flat one. It's kind of a beige color with a little bit of yellow in it. This one has a great name. It's called Long Island Cheese.
Oh, wow. It looks kind of like a wheel of cheese.
It doesn't it? It looks like cheese. And it's another great one to cook with and decorate with. And they're just a beautiful pumpkin. They come in different shapes as far as it gets a little bit taller. They can be larger size, but for the most part, they're all this kind of coloring with very subtle ribs in it. But I just love the name of the Long Island cheese on this.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Can we compare these really quickly?
Sure.
I just want to see. So they look very similar, but they're different varieties of pumpkins. So you can see she was talking about the beautiful beige color on this pumpkin. It's a little bit darker than the beige color on this pumpkin. So, but
they
very
both have
similar
the
as well.
subtle ribs, and they're both kind of the flatter, but they are different.
Very similar.
And they're all, they're like different types of apples, where you have red apples and yellow apples and green apples. It's just different varieties, and that's what these are as well. Just different types.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Another fun, interesting one. This is actually a spaghetti squash, and so we've been talking about different items up here that you could eat. This is actually one that when you cook it and pull it apart, it looks like spaghetti noodles, and you can make it into pasta. So that's kind of a neat, healthier treat than pasta, and a different texture of the flesh on the inside of these.
I love spaghetti squash.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's really
Have you ever
good.
had spaghetti squash? Have you ever cut open a squash and then you bake it,
Yep.
right? And then when it's finished baking, you take a fork and scoop it out, and it looks like spaghetti on your plate.
Yep.
And you
Or a
just
bunch
put,
of worms if you
or
want to
worms.
pull.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And then you just put spaghetti sauce on it, just like you would if it was pasta.
Yeah.
So, you
So
should try
another
it.
thing too is you could make the spaghetti squash and then cut your jack-o'-lantern and have it coming out of the jack-o'-lantern like hair or like worms coming out of it or something along that way. So, and it's a lot of fun to play with.
Yes.
So
And we love
don't
art.
play with your dinner. Only if it's for play.
Only if you're doing it for art.
Yes.
At a separate time.
Yes. These little guys are called
That's so cute.
cannonballs.
Cannonballs.
Cannonballs, and they grow in very similar shape and size, and they have much smaller ribs on them, and they're very smooth. And what we grow these for is we usually will have a pumpkin launcher out here, but this year we couldn't have one because we would get big crowds. But we usually have these fly through the air and hit tractor tires, really big tractor tires. And it's lots and lots of fun to have these fly through the air and then have them explode and stuff at the
Oh,
end.
that's
and stuff.
so
So that's why we grow these.
So are they particularly good at exploding?
They are.
Did you do
They're
something
hard
like
and they
that?
bounce really well too.
Oh, bouncing.
And
pumpkins.
sometimes when they hit and they bounce, they explode into a couple of pieces. So they are
fun.
fun. These pumpkins also grow on a bush versus most of these grow on a vine. So it's still very short to the ground. It's only maybe 2 feet tall, but it's more of a bush style, and we could get probably 15 to 20 of these off of each plant.
Oh, nice.
Versus some of the others, you only get a couple of pumpkins, and the plant is much longer and bigger vines. That is the way that they grow. So these are a little different that way.
Another great sensory bin item. These would be perfect in a little sensory bin with the hay. We talked about some fun fall sensory bins earlier this week. Little cannonball pumpkins would be perfect in there.
And most pumpkins float really well too.
Okay.
So you could cut them and make little boats out of them. The larger pumpkins are really good for that too, but I would try these little guys. They might be kind of fun, or even like putting little Lego guys in them and seeing if they would float, make boats for Lego guys.
What a great idea.
These are gourds, and they grow all sorts of colors and bumps with that one.
I'd love to.
And they can look like swans. They can look like snakes sometimes. And a lot of kids will look at these and they'll put the little googly eyes on them and make critters out of them.
Instant character.
Yes. And they're just fun. They're full of texture and bumps and lots of color and patterns in them. This one, you can see the two different colors, and that's just the way they grow.
I love that. It's the same fruit.
Yeah.
Gourd. But look at that. This part of it is yellow, and this part of it is green, and it's the same one, and it just grows that way.
This one has a line in it as well. There's green, and then the yellow, and then it goes more into the white. So it's very interesting, and yours has a lot of stripes and patterns on it.
Yes, this one's beautiful. I love how it's got the white stripes and the green stripes, and to me it looks like a swan or some kind of bird that's got its neck bent down, and maybe he's like itching his little body there or something. You see that? Very fun. So are gourds and pumpkins part of the same plant family?
They are part of the same family.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
They are all very related. And if you open these up, these will have seeds in them that look very similar to a pumpkin seed. They'll just be a little bit smaller. And these grow like crazy.
Yeah.
They're fun to grow because you never know what you're going to get on the same bush. Because these could come off of the same plant. So they grow very uniquely within even the plant.
I'm so interested to know how that happens now. Very cool, thank you.
Another interesting one is this. This is called an apple gourd, and it looks like an oversized apple. And
it looks like a cross between an apple and a watermelon.
Yes.
The skin on it has a very watermelon-like pattern.
Yes.
So
these are fun. This was a new one for us this year, and people have really enjoyed mixing them into like their table decorations and having just kind of a different shape and color. And it almost has kind of like a camouflage to it with the different colors of green. And they've just been kind of fun to look at this year.
This is so cool. This is probably, I have two favorites that I've been looking at since we've been here. This is one of them. I just love that it's definitely a pumpkin, but it looks like an apple, and it's even called an apple gourd. Do you think it would taste like an apple if you took a bite out of it? No, it wouldn't taste like an apple.
I don't think these taste as good. The other thing with these is you can see where it's already starting to turn brown. This will harden, and if it's kept properly, stored properly, it'll turn brown, harden, and it can be kept for years and years and years.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's one that you buy it once and you can use it for several times, but it will not keep the green color. It will
turn brown. Yeah. That actually reminds me, I'm going to grab this one now. So we were talking about this one earlier. I love this one. This one is called a bird house gourd.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so just like with the apple gourd that she was talking about, if you keep it for a long time, the green color on it will go away and it will turn brown and it will get hard, really hard. And so you can use it. Do you see this really fun shape? Does this look like a really fun little house that you could live in if you were a bird? Yeah, so once it turns hard, you would drill a hole in it.
Yep.
And then the insides.
So there'll be seeds in it, so you can dump those out.
Okay.
But for the most part, all of the moisture will go away, and it'll kind of, the thicker walls on it will kind of recede, and so, and that's
just kind of hollows itself out.
And it hollows itself out, yeah.
That's amazing. So it kind of hollows itself out as it gets older, and then you can drill a hole in it, and you could put it outside, and little birds could come and live inside of it. Another thing we talked about, and you may have seen this before too, is you could drill a hole in it and maybe we can do the seeds dry.
Yeah.
Leave the seeds in or put some other kind of
either way
rattly something in it, and then turn it into an instrument like a big maraca. Yeah. Could you shake your maraca like this?
With both hands.
Very cool. Yeah, a two-handed maraca. Yes. So that one's really awesome. So another one that you would buy it and then you could
last
use it
for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. People will also make them into cups or vases, or I believe some people will store things in them as well, like seeds and other items, because they're so hard when they're done.
Yeah, and such a cool looking container.
Yeah, and a lot of them too, like the stem will grow straight up, or they'll kind of curl around like what these guys do. So they grow very uniquely.
Yeah,
each one of them.
all be a little different.
They're all different.
Very cool.
So then we have kind of our typical jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, and the orange. They can be tall and skinny. They can be round like this. So they can even be really short and fat too. So they come in different sizes and shapes. They are also good for cooking, but just not quite as fine of a texture. They tend to be not quite as good for a pie, but they would be great for like a soup or something along that you might put in an extra blender at the end. But they're a good one. And they're the ones that are fun to reach in and grab all the gunk out while you're carving it as well.
That's the fun part, right?
Yes.
Reach your hand inside and pull out the gunk and seeds. Yeah, get your hands all over it.
And the seeds too in these can be roasted and seasoned, and they're very tasty.
Oh yeah. Have you ever eaten pumpkin seeds? They're delicious. So when you carve your pumpkin, ask your grown-up to set your seeds aside and you can bake them, put a little salt or something on them. They're super yummy.
They are, yeah.
So I want to take a look at this. Actually, let's grab this one. So we talked about some of the pumpkins before, the little pumpkin that had the bumps on it. So this is another variety that has a lot of bumps on it, if it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and then it would be very similar to this guy that only has a few bumps on it.
Oh, look at that. Can you see the difference? So this one has more places on it where it's smooth, and this one's pretty bumpy all over it.
Yeah.
More bumps and fewer bumps.
Yeah.
Are these the same variety or are they different?
I believe
varieties?
these are different varieties.
Okay.
And these can also, again, be carved or you know, used for decoration and things that way. And this was kind of what I was talking about, where it's fun to make them into witches and Frankensteins because they look like little warts. And then these are beautiful because of all the different colors and things that are on them.
Very cool, just the way it is.
So other ones would be, this is a
little
gourd,
tiny one.
and they look like flowers. If you look at it this direction,
Check out my
they look like
stem.
little flowers.
See, it's like it's a stem, and then these little bumps on the board look like petals. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, and then if you look at it from this direction, they have kind of like a star appearance too, because of the way that they see that.
That's really cool. I bet if you cut the top off of this like that, you could do a really fun paint print with it, a little stamp with it. So much you can do.
So don't just buy it and put it on your doorstep. Play with it too.
Play with it. Learn all about it. Use all your senses.
Exactly. So, and then these are also kind of fun ones with patterns. They're very smooth and very thick and heavy, but great patterns. They look kind of like a lace or like maybe a snake skin.
Oh yeah.
All sorts of different things. So those are kind of fun to do too. And they're good for cooking, just like the big pumpkin. Maybe just not quite as fine of a texture for pies.
Okay. So we've been talking a lot about the pumpkins that are good for eating and what we can make them into pies and soups, or just cutting up and eating it with other vegetables. But something that I learned earlier is Miss Denise said that the animals on the farm really love to eat the pumpkins.
They love the pumpkin.
It's a special treat for them.
It is absolutely a treat for them. Our cows are the biggest fans. They really love them. It's fun to watch cows run across a pasture to eat the pumpkins. And so it's a very special treat. It's also very good for their tummies. And cows actually have several stomachs. And so it's really good to keep all of their stomachs healthy and things that way. So they will eat them, and they've learned to hit the pumpkin with the top part of their forehead, and then they can smash it open, and then they're able to take their bites that way.
They figured out what they needed to do to get to the yummy fruit. Yes.
And you can have a pile of pumpkins, and within a few minutes, they are completely gone because the cows will go crazy for them and just eat them up.
I'm sure my friends love their vegetables that much too.
Yes.
So just like our vegetables are really good for us and help keep our bodies healthy and safe, the animals have to eat their vegetables too, and they love to eat pumpkins.
They do. And then our chickens love to eat them, but we will have to smash them open for the chickens. They can peck at some of them if they get soft, but for the most part we open them up and they love eating them. Our goats will eat them as well, but my llamas haven't figured it out. So I don't know if they don't like it or they just haven't figured it out. But we'll see. We'll keep trying.
The others have the pumpkins.
But the cows, they love it. It's like candy for them.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Miss Denise, for showing us all of these different pumpkin varieties. If you are local to us, we are, like I said, out in Lincoln at Fowler Ranch. And the pumpkin patch will be open this weekend. You can come check out the...
We'll be open Friday from 3 to 6 and Saturday from 10 to 5 before Halloween. And then after that, then our cows get to enjoy the rest of it.
Yes. So come get some pumpkins before the cows get to eat them all. We think about pumpkins with, the fall holidays a lot, but really it's just it's a great thing to eat all the time,
and they store really well.
And,
so you can keep them up until next year and things that way, and even decorate them for other holidays, like what we were saying with the flat white ones.
Very cool. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having us out here.
It was nice meeting you.
See you. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us at the Pumpkin Patch, and we'll see you soon. Bye.